And welcome back. Now, if you think young children are apathetic and don't care about world issues, we are about to prove you wrong.
Yeah, today's show we have Faye Simanjuntak from Rumah Faye organization. Faye works towards fulfilling children's rights and is also active in the fight against child trafficking.
Hello.
Good morning, Faye. How are you?
Welcome to the show. It's so good to have you.
Is this too early for you in the morning?
So tired.
So tired.
And how old again are you, Faye?
I'm 14.
Wow, we're
old.
so in the same age, Faye.
Yeah, he's
Obviously.
16.
Yeah.
I mean, we all look really young today. Anyways, getting on to the first question. You are an activist for child trafficking. And what kind of child trafficking are we talking about here?
We focus mostly on child prostitution, sex trafficking in Indonesia. We do work in some areas of child trafficking in general, but we try to focus specifically on child prostitution.
But the question is, how did you first start it? For example, I mean, you're at such a young age. I mean, usually, you know, just adults, when they reach around 20s, they want to do something. But what made you start?
Yeah.
First of all, I think that it's because I grew up in a community. My family has always been teaching me, yo, give back to society. This is like your responsibility as someone who's already been blessed with so much. We should have not only the responsibility, but the want to help other people. And you know, when you're younger, you feel like it's more of not a burden, but something you're kind of lazy to do. It's something your parents want you to do. And I think at first it was like that for me. And then I started learning about all these really problematic cases. I learned about child prostitution, and I felt like that was, I guess in a way, my calling. It was something that I felt really passionate about. Like, can you just imagine children younger than me, especially, who are trafficked into prostitution? And so, yeah, and not only that, earlier you said a lot of people don't want to help until they're 20, right? But I think that, yes, that's a lot of cases are like that, but I think one of the problems too is that a lot of kids my age especially don't have the materials to do what I'm doing.
So what gave you the material?
The information, you mean? Okay.
First of all, information-wise, obviously, like, we live in an age, like internet age. It's it's the most useful thing. And second of all, I think it depends on like your family, where you grew up in. I had the advantage of having a family who's always cultivated the idea and teaching me how, like, teaching me
to help children,
to help other people, to love others. And maybe at first it didn't. I have to end up doing it myself. Like, it has to, the click has to come from me, right? But the point is, there has to be, I think, there has to be a family, a mother, a father,
a support,
like
a big support system.
Support system is probably the most important thing that I've had.
Who supports this in this case? Your mom, your dad, or both?
All of them.
What about schools, though? Do you learn a lot from schools as well?
I think I do. I feel like the biggest problem is that a lot of times, especially in Indonesian culture, because we're a very sheltered society, which is not a bad thing at all. But it makes, especially parents and teachers, they don't want to talk about sex and the danger and STDs. Like, I can go to my friends and ask them, what STDs are there? And they'll say AIDS, and that's about it. Herpes,
all they know.
Like, they don't know any other STD. They don't know the dangers of sex. And some of them do, obviously, but not everyone has the, you know, they don't understand. They've never been taught. The sex ed is never good enough. And I've been moving all my life. I've moved to a few different schools, and though they all have sex ed, not all of them specifically is able to teach the dangers of it.
Because it's very rare here in Indonesia also, schools. Like, for example, like I live in the US, when we study about sex ed when you're in junior high, for example. Like, here in Indonesia, you know, when you're talking about
taboo.
Yeah, it's still,
you're talking about this? So, is this what made you go on, for example, at a young age? Would you
to try to voice out basically about this issue here?
To educate also the kids.
I think when I was little, again, when I was researching it, I realized that a lot of the people who were active in this line of duty, if you will, were older people, which is, again, not bad at all. It's amazing that people are doing that. But not only that, again, there weren't much people who were working in this anyway. If there were, first of all, they weren't Indonesian. Second of all, they weren't really young. And it's hard to connect to your target group when you can't empathize with them. And so I realized that as a young Indonesian female, I kind of have a way to connect with these kids. I realized that it's easier for them to listen to me and open up to me than it would be to
someone older,
a 60-year-old American or Canadian or which I have nothing against them. It's amazing that they're so willing to help other children, especially in other countries. But I feel like...
You know, it's amazing what you're doing right now at such a young age. But again, is there a lot of people, a lot of children your age basically who's doing the same thing, who's able to voice out and wanted to educate in terms of, you know, even, let's not just talk about trafficking, child trafficking, but any other, you know,
cases, issues.
Yeah.
Again, there are a lot of kids who want to do something but don't have the materials to do that. So a lot of my friends actually are the ones who are like, hey, can I join? Can I help you with anything? Can I help you with fundraising? Yeah, which is amazing because Rumah Faye is self-funded and self-governed. We do take donations, but we don't run on them. And so the fact, what we do value the most is probably volunteering. That's like the core of what we do, basically. So, and we try to incorporate young people because that's not, our goal is not only to raise awareness about child trafficking and to save these children, but also to make other children understand that they can do something.
To educate also,
To educate, not just people who, anak-anak, the kids who are open to selling their bodies, but also educating kids who don't understand that this is happening at their own backyard.
But do you have any moments where, for example, maybe adults would say, hey, you know, do you know what you're doing? Or, you know,
are you a bit too young to actually understand such a case like this?
Do you have any, though you meet up with that kind of person?
That surprisingly has not happened that much, but it has happened. And let me tell you, the first time it happened, I don't know, like it really hurt because
you're trying to do something good.
The way I thought about it was like, if you're not doing anything, I feel like this is my responsibility to do something, and it's like, you don't want me to do this, and I just, you know, like, you feel really like brokenhearted in a way, But I started to realize that it doesn't really matter what you think of me or what you think that I should do or shouldn't do, because
as long as I'm doing
something I believe is right, or I think something that is right. And again, the most important thing is that my family has always been my support system, and they've always,
really good.
in every way, they've supported me. So why should I care what some stranger thinks of me over what my family thinks of me?
That's true. And how long have you been doing this for?
I have been, so Rumah Faye actually opened October 2013. That's when we officially started.
And you founded it?
Yes,
with
my mother.
That's why it's your name, Rumah Faye organization.
But I started delving into this in late fourth grade because we were learning about social justice. And when we learned about it, I felt, again, like when we learned about child prostitution, which the teacher, I went to the teacher and talked about it because she was really willing. She was great. She was really willing to talk about it. But we weren't really. It wasn't something that she would want to say in the classroom because a lot of the kids, the parents wouldn't want to talk about it and stuff like that. So when I came to talk about it with her, she was willing to open up to me, and she called my parents to tell them, look, she wants to research about this stuff, and I think she can do it, but please sit with her and do it with her. So that's when I started caring.
Wow, that's good. All right, now, Faye, we're going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're still going to continue talking about child trafficking.
Don't go anywhere.
Bogor Palace deer. Where did they come from? These spotted deer, or axis, were brought from Nepal by British Governor General Thomas Stamford Raffles in 1808 to adorn the palace gardens. An adult spotted deer can reach 1 meter in height, with the stag weighing at 70 kilograms and the doe at 50 kilograms. The habitat of spotted deer is spread through various countries like India, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. Today, there are 600 spotted deer within the Bogor Palace.
Kain tapis is Lampung's traditional fabric worn by the women. It is hand-woven from gold and silver threads with nature-inspired motifs. Kain tapis has dozens of varieties, each with its respective use in different occasions. The price range of kain tapis vary depending on its complexity. A sheet of kain tapis can cost tens to hundreds of millions of rupiah, making it collectible.
and welcome back to DayBreak, still with Faye Simanjuntak from Rumah Faye.
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about what is Rumah Faye?
Yeah.
So Rumah Faye is an NGO, a non-governmental organization that helps children who are trafficked into prostitution.
Okay.
Obviously below 18 years old.
Okay.
So we help children about 11 to 18 years old.
So what do you normally do? Do you have campaigns,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
events?
So we have 3 programs, which is prevention, rescue, and rehabilitation. The 3 of them, we're one of the only Indonesian NGOs that do all 3 programs in one NGO. Obviously, we work together a lot with other NGOs because where would we be without them? But yeah, we mostly focus on prevention because it's very important to raise awareness, and then rescue and rehabilitation is more with partners to help the girls be able to, after their program in our shelter, they can go on and move on.
When you mentioned about prevention, how are we, taboo or, about this case?
I think prevention, it's to stop it before it happens, right? And basically what we believe is raising awareness to other, not only adults, but also children, so that when they grow up, it's just starting a new generation. So, like, I always say that I know child trafficking and child prostitution won't be abolished in my time, but I hope that through this, through teaching the younger generation, which I think that is so important to focus on, we can be able to, like, make it drop, make a decrease in child prostitution.
You mentioned you have a lot of volunteers in Rumah Faye as well. And what is it that you all do? Do you meet people? Do you meet these children, the victims, basically, who have experienced child trafficking?
So actually, when you volunteer, we can't let a lot of people meet our victims because it just, to be able, for rehabilitation, again, that even I can't do that. A lot of the people who originally work there can't do that. It has to be a licensed psychologist to do that. So what the volunteers actually do, again, is prevention. So we split the volunteers in a couple of groups, and they go out around, like, wherever they live. They make a group of, like, whoever lives closest to this area. They find an area, and they just go there. So we don't believe in going to one place and never coming back. So we chose a few pilot projects, pilot locations, where we come once every 3 months, especially for, like, Christmas or Valentine's or something. We come and we bring, buka puasa, together. So it's just mostly, it's to at first be friends with them, to know them, so they will open up to us. So we don't immediately go and just be like, be careful of sex and leave, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
What I'm curious is, how do people actually know that they're the victims? Do the victims actually come and seek for help?
Yes.
Or, I mean, how are they able to run away from such situations?
One, they can't. 2, again, they run away, but they risk a lot. They risk a lot. Most of the time it's because someone tips us off. And then we work together with other NGOs, usually the police, to worry them.
So basically, the government or the police is involved in helping Rumah Faye also.
The government is very helpful because, but I think that mostly it's not really it is the government's responsibility to enforce rules and laws, but as civilians, as the people of this country, if we don't ask for something or we don't push for something from the government, what are we going to do? You can't just blame everything on the government. And I've had people come to me and be like, oh, I know what you're doing. It's great because the government doesn't do anything. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's like, they're busy, and that much is obvious. And we, as the people, as mothers, as children, as fathers, have the responsibility to stand up for our brothers and sisters. To enforce these laws ourselves, bring awareness to this, and especially, like you said, prostitution, sex is a taboo here. So I feel like it's our responsibility to untaboo it, make it not a myth anymore.
Now, how do you untaboo it, though? I mean, how do you create the awareness, basically?
I think, first of all, again, me as a child, talking about sex, it's already a way that I feel like I'm already tabooing it. I go to places and I see a certain development, I guess, in the way they talk about it. Because at first they would be like, like they wouldn't really talk, like,
shy,
and then they would start opening up about it, and you would see the development from to I understand, like, the dangers of this.
So you have the process of that, right? And how do we know, or do we have the data here in Indonesia? Are we having, is there a lot of kids that are going through child trafficking?
So out of 194 countries, Indonesia is the 47th with the most human trafficking. And
wow, 47th.
So,
Okay.
So first of all, the reason I go into sex trafficking is because human trafficking is the 3rd largest criminal industry in the world. 79% of that is prostitution, is sex trafficking, is commercial sex exploitation. And so I started to look more into Indonesia. So 30%, and this is a bit outdated. I think it's a larger number now, actually.
Now a larger number.
Yeah, 30% of the children, people who are trafficked, are below 18 years old.
Below 18,
30%,
wow.
which is a lot. And 40 to 70,000 children are trafficking of sex.
How do you get that data, though, to be honest?
We check. Honestly, there aren't a lot of people who want to do.
I mean, nobody
who want to
comes
check
up
for
with-
data
Yeah.
in Indonesia specifically,
To
but
be a big
mostly
thing.
UNICEF and ECPAT are the most.
So you guys are
trustworthy,
working
yeah.
together with UNICEF and the expat also?
Yes, ECPAT is. They're all very, because I feel like in NGOs it's very important to work together. That's probably the biggest thing in networks like this, because how else would we know about this, know about that, help to stop something, raid a place? So.
And what's curious also, for example, she's at the young age, you know, and then you want to be involved, you want to help. Are you in school also by any chance?
How do you manage to actually
Yeah.
balance
My mom always
Your
makes sure.
time.
Yeah, my mom always makes sure that school is the most important. Like, no matter what, Rumah Faye always comes second to school
Yeah.
first, because how am I? The way she puts it, how am I gonna help other people if I don't have an education? Yeah.
Okay.
So, obviously, I have my amazing team, and they're the ones who are always. They actually work.
They're
the
your
ones
age
who,
also, or they're older?
No, they're old, they're legal. They're
Okay.
legally allowed to work. But
Okay.
again, the volunteers who are underage, again, school first, and then when we all have holiday, we're like, yo, what do you want to do? So obviously, it's honestly not that hard.
Okay.
I just have to focus on school. My mom never pushes me to do anything that that I'm
You
too
don't
tired to, or that that I'm in the middle of exams or school. But once I'm in holiday or it's a weekend and there's nothing coming up, that's like crunch time.
All right. Now we go back a
Wow.
bit to prevention, okay? And you mentioned a lot of these children at the young age, starting from what? Do they start from 8?
They start from really young, and they would be, a lot of times they'd be born into that, and so they'd be raised to be
As that, okay. And we talk about prevention now. How is it that, you know, you're able to actually prevent such things from happening? Obviously, education is still, you know, a taboo. Sex education is still taboo and a big issue in Indonesia as well. But, you know, apart from sex education, what else can be done?
I think that it's just awareness in general. It's that not only do people not want to talk about it, people never hear of it. They don't understand
Cases.
how
They don't know how bad
in their
the issue.
face it actually is. And so I think that the way that we prevent this, or we bring awareness to this, is that we talk to them. That's really it. It's just big education and like things like this, awareness to other people that how important it is, especially parents and teachers, how important it is to not only have sex education in school but also at home, because it's in a way it's two different things. Listening, hearing it from your teacher and hearing it from your parent.
Is it because public school, because not a lot of public school have sex education for us, for, you know, private schools they do, for example, here in Indonesia. Is it because of that also? Like, for example, you mentioned about sex education and they're taboo, they don't know information. Is that what caused these kids that doesn't know about the informations?
I think, yeah, that's one of the huge things in that, is that nobody hears about it, nobody understands it, nobody knows how dangerous it is until they get into it, and then that's it.
And you in Rumah Faye have met with the victims, right? I mean, you've spoken to the victims and all. And how are they, you know, after going through all that process at such a young age? You know, do you think there's a possibility that they will grow up, you know, just, you know, being depressed or not being able to live a normal human life after that?
That's been a fear for a long time, I think. But after I met a lot of the victims, they're very, I don't meet a lot because one, I'm not really allowed to.
Yeah.
Psychologically, I'm afraid to
Say
trigger
something wrong, yeah.
But the ones I have met, they're probably the strongest people I've ever met. And it's crazy to think that these kids, these girls, a lot of them are already adults when we save them, but or like older, they're 18, 17, 16, 16 to 18, and they're probably the strongest people I've ever met. Again, they've been through so much, and they can tell me this, but for some reason, a lot of times they're not too
Open?
They're open, but then, like, they want to share this with me. It's like, in a way, they know what people want to hear, and they're telling us what we need to hear. And it's amazing because a lot of them, they're traumatized, obviously.
Yeah,
Yes,
traumatized,
yes.
Always,
true,
but a lot of times they're also, it's like they want something better for other people, and that's why they're so open to do this. And so something we implement in our shelter is that we have a 100-day program. If they're not ready after that, we bring them to another NGO.
Okay.
But in our program, we work together with companies, actually. Like clothing companies and stuff like that. And these people will send female workers to come to our shelter and teach the victims how to do things. The survivors, they're going to teach them like how to print clothes, something that you can apply, not just cooking and sewing, but also like we work together with companies who are willing to take these girls.
To hire these girls in future, so a job
it's familiar.
for them.
It's familiar because the person who taught them would be working.
Would be there as well. I think that's really good. Now, one last, last thing though. You have a message to send to people out there, especially to create awareness. You may do so now. Yeah.
You can be in it right here.
So this is to Indonesian girls.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you that no matter what anybody says, no matter what people think you can or can't do, whatever people tell you, it's not true. That you're strong and you're capable of doing anything you ever want to do as long as you chase it, as long as you push for it, as long as you realize that if this is something you're passionate about, this is something that you're called to do. This is something that you can't just give up once you think that you can't do it anymore. And I think that if you ever need anything, if you ever feel a calling to do something that I can ever help with, everybody can just go to my website or our Facebook. But it's just that I feel like a lot of times when we girls or when we young, not just girls actually, when we young people want to do something, we can't do it because we're told we can or we don't have the things. So I'm asking you, if you feel the passion to do something, do it. And
all right, Faye Simanjuntak, thank you so
very
much. That was
Success
amazing.
with
Keep on
Rumah
doing,
Faye.
keep on doing what you're doing with Rumah Faye organization, and I hope other children will be able to do the same thing as you to create awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, after the break, we have a tragic news from Papua, Indonesia, following a military plane crash.
We'll be right back.